if I can make someone feel good when I get off the phone with them, or a member of my team make them feel good, that's a goal. That is an accomplishment, because they'll think about you. They really will think about you when they need you. And so that's the feels that we want to leave. That's the humanizing.
Welcome to Get in the Hole with Tech-Gofer. I am Nick Mulholland, president of Tech-Gofer, and your host. Today, we've got a longtime friend of mine, Monique Porras from the Kempington Group. Thanks for being here.
Right. Thank you, Nick. Of course, It's always good to see you and talk to you.
I was going to say, I was thinking about it earlier. We've known each other for over 15 years at this point.
Has it been that long?
That is crazy.
And somehow we look the exact same way.
Exactly,
we haven't changed.
Our bodies work exactly the same way. Like nothing aches. Like, it's perfect.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been that long. I mean, now that I think about it, as you said it, we've been through some good journeys together. And here we are still going.
I know, absolutely. Well, I'm excited for you to be here today I think that, we have these candid technology conversations. And as we were talking, there's people changing jobs all the time. I think that we're very excited to learn about how you've been viewing the landscape just because you've been in recruiting for so long. So let's jump into section one of our talk, which is, what are we drinking today? So Monique, what do you got?
We've got Angel's Envy whiskey on a big cube today.
That's a
good whiskey.
For sure.
It is. I mean, it's a good go-to, easy go-to. So we've got a big whiskey collection.
That Woodford Reserve is my kind of go-to when I just don't want to think about it, but I know that it's good.
And what are you drinking?
I've got a little vodka soda with mint in it.
Oh, that's good. Well, cheers, my friend.
Cheers. Freshman from the backyard. So, let's start off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, or tell the viewers, etc. Tell us about your background and how you got into recruiting. And when I first met you, you weren't even at the Kempington Group. So tell us the story, please.
Yeah. So it's funny. I think most from my generation, I think today there may be a few higher ed universities that actually have recruiting courses, but most of us trip into it. So how did I come into recruiting? So I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area. I was actually, in my former life, I was a field reporter. My degree is journalism. You may not even have known that.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So I was a field reporter. And look, I was young. I wanted to just be an anchor, but that's what happens, right? You got to pay your dues. Here I am in Washington, D.C., which is like a number one market. But nope, I knew they would send me to like Paducah, Kentucky or somewhere off, right? And I didn't want to do that. I was running around getting sound bites. But now my degree, awesome, right? I think I'm still applying all the things that I do today. So I ended up moving out of that into getting recruited into radio. And so then radio kind of did the .com bust that happened way back when was like, kind of sent us all away. So a friend says, go into a recruiting firm. And I was like, what is a recruiting firm? I mean, they'll help you find a job. I do. And I'll never forget, the branch manager offers me a job to work there. And I said, okay, I will, do this for short time until I find an advertising or media job. And so that was all she wrote. I said, teach me everything. I became fascinated with, back then, everything was way more manual, but I became fascinated with the idea of people matching them with an opportunity. I mean, it was almost like a game, like a puzzle, right? Like just the matching and doing all that. Now I'm very much a people person. So, I'm in the right business for it. But I liked it. It's complex. I like the complexities. I like the layers, and I just embraced it. And that's how I got in. And that was 20-something years ago.
And I think when we met, you were working for a recruiting firm. And then how long have you had the Kempington Group now?
I hit 10 years, Nick, in October.
Wow. That's amazing.
10
Congratulations.
years.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Very humble.
So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I think on the website, it references a humanizing recruiting. Tell us more about just your business and where how you differentiate versus other recruiters?
So, it's funny, right? They really do breed us. And I say this, they breed us recruiters to be very transactional, right? I mean, just be very much about what can happen for them now. And look, maybe that works, in other spaces, but I knew to me that never sat well, because our commodity breathes, our commodity has emotions, it's people. And so we can't just treat that like a transactional item, right?
Right.
And our jobs, we all remember our jobs in our life, right? Like that's like a permanent stamp to our journey in life. And so I think we have to treat it as such. And so something kind of clicked in me over time of like, even though I was getting bred to be recruit that way, right? Like, hey, just work on what's satisfying you in the now, because they pound so many numbers, right? Like 10 interviews, a certain amount of bills and job orders, and it's very numbers driven, which look at, I understand sales processes and stuff like that. But again, commodity is people. And so I just vowed, I mean, this was about, I would have to say, even around 2010, something just clicked and was like, no, I want to do this differently. And I didn't care about the number. I cared about, the quality of people that I was interacting with, and then the relationship that you can build from that, whether candidate, whether a hiring manager, didn't matter. And so that's just kind of how I operated. When I started my firm in 2014, that was something that I'm not going to compromise that. It never will be a compromise. We've not worked with companies, or we've not worked with candidates because their philosophy didn't fit that. And that's okay. That is okay. So that's how I think we differentiate ourselves. It's just always going to be that. It's going to be about the relationship. I kind of brought in the humanizing because that's what I was seeing right over time, is it was becoming transactional, and where was the human factor? And to me, what that means is spending the time just having a conversation, wherever it may go, may not even result in anything. And that's not the end result at the time, but I think it could result in a long lasting relationship. And I just, every day, I'm like, if I can make someone feel good when I get off the phone with them, or a member of my team, make them feel good, that's a goal. That is an accomplishment, because they'll think about you. They really will think about you when they need you. And so that's the feels that we want to leave. That's the humanizing part of it. So
I love it.
It's just truly being authentic.
Yeah, no, and you definitely are a person I would say is very authentic, and you are a people person for sure.
Yeah, you know me for a long time. Yep.
That's true. So, I think the majority of our listeners are going to be, IT leaders, other people that are in the tech space. Tell us a little bit about, Kempington Group's capabilities in placing, high level tech executives, as well as, what you're kind of seeing out there from a trend perspective. The companies are looking for, I guess.
Yeah. So personally, been involved in technology recruiting way over 10 years. With Kempington, obviously been doing the whole time. We have a technology division. We work nationally. So here and all across the United States. Technology has been one of those unique facets for us, right? As far as the division, it's its own beast. It operates in a different way to some of the other things, right, that we work with. And so embracing that, right? We've got a lot of, working with companies that are startup early stage, which tech can have a lot of that, right? All the way to well-established, billion-dollar companies, or companies with massive technology divisions that put tech, first and invest in that. So the full gamut, right? But, so I've got a lot of years to see how it's evolved.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. And trends and what people are doing. And so, it was quite fascinating. I mean, we can take COVID, for example, and really how we saw such a huge pivot to, where if a company was selling a product or something like that, right? E-com became just dominating to it. I remember even years prior where, iOS and Android developers, right? That was a huge, as a big need as that was developing. But, now you've got so many different talent, whether it's at the production level, at the development, all the way to the executive piece of it. And so we see companies, trend wise, right? We see companies that I think they're investing differently in their technology, right? I think they are investing smarter. I see a majority, right? And really allowing these technology leaders to kind of own this piece, right? There's still some companies that, technology should be at the forefront, is not, maybe don't invest as much as they should.
Right.
I think what I'll tell you is I think talent, I think mid-level all the way up, and actually, first to correct that, from production development all the way up to C-suite of IT leadership, I think they're wanting more to be involved with companies that are putting their technology at the forefront, right?
Yeah.
Because you get tech companies that are still playing with, don't want to invest in newer technology, advanced technology, more expansive technology. I get it, it's expensive, but what I see is the talent really wanting to play more, to have, right, to really build I think a bit better IT and a more robust IT division. So I think candidates are kind of driving a little bit of what they want out of the leadership in these companies as it relates to technology, for sure.
Yeah.
I see that.
So I think it's an interesting question because as we were talking before we jumped on, a lot of people are worried about AI and how that can potentially take their jobs. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that, but also I wanted to ask is what are, some of the skill sets or, particular, well, I guess we'll stick with skill sets that the organizations that you're working with that are asking, hey, we want to hire XYZ person. We need somebody that can do this. You mentioned the iOS and the Android development, which is a little bit, it's not in crazy need like it once was.
Right.
What are you seeing as far as all that goes?
Yeah, I mean, it's look, we sit in a seat where we're seeing a lot. We work with every industry you can think of. So, from, languages to systems, I mean, it is the full gamut, right? So it's just so big and diverse. But like, speaking of AI, right? Like, so, it's a question that comes up to us all the time. Is AI going to take over jobs? I was just at a discussion last week about this. So it's something to watch. It's something to keep learning, because AI, I think, is huge to a lot of us. Now, folks in technology could be playing with AI now, could be questioning AI and all those things. But, I think big picture is, it's a shift. So what I tell people when I get asked about the AI and what I'm seeing people in technology doing is they're just pivoting themselves. Right. So whatever maybe they were brought on to do, let's say certain languages from a development perspective they were focused on, or from a leadership perspective, right, they operate with certain technologies and certain languages, there's a big pivot. So, right, when it comes to AI, you have like a lot of Node, a lot of Python. So, people who may not be very specialized in that, shifting to that, because I think that's what it's all about with AI. A lot of companies are already involving it. But do I think it's going to replace? No. A lot of them know. I think they have to shift so they can work alongside the AI. And so we are seeing that pivot, with either the languages they're learning and things like that to align more with what AI uses and different AI platforms. So it is fascinating. And more companies investing in AI experimenting and research, right? So I was sharing that there's this, I read this company, Logical, spelled pretty funky, but the CEO was like, I want to replace myself with AI. Well, let's see how it goes. Renamed himself as AI, right? Like, and the question is, can a CIO, can a CTO, can a CEO be replaced by AI? Me, as far as humanizing and the human factor of things go, nah, you're never going to be able to do that, right? How are you going to like build the work culture and all the things and have that collaboration, which is so huge in IT? How can you replace that? But there's people starting to experiment with that, and it will be interesting to see, where that goes. But I do see people pivoting, which I think they should do.
I mean, I think being knowledgeable about it. I mean, every single tech company that we represent, which is, as you know, over 1,000 plus, whether it's a telco provider to a wireless to cybersecurity, they're all, any of their salespeople we're going to talk about. Well, we're using AI. We're AI enabled. And what I've kind of found is it's, okay, great. That's a fantastic buzzword. How is it applicable to the business, right? And actually, it's a guest that will be coming on shortly. their company is putting together very specific talk tracks for companies to say, okay, you're a manufacturing company, you are a bank, you are a this. Here's how Copilot could benefit you based upon the stuff you're using. So it's the application of the AI thing, and it's everybody running around. I don't trust the idea that anybody that you would ever talk to that says they're an AI expert, it's too vague.
I agree with you. I mean, even us, right, in recruiting, we've been playing, I've been doing it all year, different demos with AI related technologies for recruiting, right? It's not going to replace the relational recruiting that we do. It just isn't. Can it help from a sourcing perspective, right? At the beginning of searches and helping getting more information, it gathers a lot of information, a lot more than what I've seen. But it will not replace my team, myself, sitting down with like a CIO or CTO and being like, you know what? This is what we're trying to take the technology. This is who we need. I mean, that human side of it, I just don't see it.
I was going to say, I mean, even the best AIs that I'm sure that you could take somebody's resume with, accolades of this is the job, and do they match an AI, ChatGPT or Perplexity or some of the other ones? They could probably do the matching. But I agree with you that, especially when you're placing a person, what their resume says, do they believe in the company mission, all that stuff, like that's a human element that if you're overlooking and trying to treat it as though it's a commodity, I think you're going to be making a lot of bad hiring decisions.
That's right. And then you think of the flip side of the candidate. Now, AI can really help candidates, right? We get candidates because we work, mid-level all the way up, to C-suite. We get candidates that maybe have been 8 years, 10 years at a company, and then they're like, they're looking at putting their feelers out. They don't know where to even start and begin, right? Or it's going to be it's like a baby giraffe. It's like the first interview they've had in a long time. I don't know what to do. They could use AI we've played with it for some amazing, like throwing out situational questions in an interview, really throwing curveball questions, using AI to really help with that so that they're better prepared for the interview. So, there's resources like that, but it's still, to your point, it will not take away, right, that interaction that companies still need and want between the two.
So I've got a question here, and I think we're kind of going this direction, but the evolution of recruiting, where do you see that over the next 5 years changing? I mean, as we kind of already mentioned, developers are kind of going by the wayside. They're not as needed as they once were. What are some of the positions or trends that you see in the next 5 years that are going to be, hey, we need, companies are going to be asking for? Is it an AI? Like, is there going to be a CI AI guy?
I do. So I do think, so as I referenced way back in the day of iOS developers and Android developers, right? Like that was a thing. And that became a thing because of the technology. At the end of the day, technology is always evolving. There's always these kind of newly developed roles that are happening that didn't exist. I mean, people in technology know this. It's always been moving. Introducing AI is, I think, just another movement, right? An evolution to technology. So I do. Do I think in 5 years, I think there'll be some quirky new roles that might be needed. I don't know what that looks like or what that is. But again, right now, for those playing with AR, our clients that are doing, so there's still someone that has to manage that and has to move it and oversee it. And so, and that's kind of been a little funny with who those people are, doing that. So I do think in 5 years, we can maybe evolve into some unique titles that we never had before. But it's kind of like that in a lot of different spaces, I think. But I do. I think there'll be new roles. I think development teams will shift, right? There's a shift that's been happening, to your point. I think there'll be a shift there. There's been a ton of downsizing. And if I just even look at the last 2 years, if I look at 23 and 24, there's been downsizing in the amounts, but then refocusing on who they have or who they bring on to replace maybe some of them. More robust, shifted experiences, expertise isn't the same. I can tell companies are looking ahead a little bit on that. So
what, I mean, for those that are out there that are IT leaders, are there particular skills that you would recommend that they start really kind of we'll call it shaping up because, or that it would give them an edge in a hiring scenario where there's companies that are going to be looking for those skills often?
I think a lot of it is going to be some of the intangibles. I think IT leaders can give, so a lot are kind of getting some newbies, right? Like the new fresh out on the scene, so to speak, post college folks, right?
Right.
Or just not even college grads that have been playing with technology and bringing them on. I think it would behoove an IT leader to really look at offering more pathways of playing, of expanding, of experimenting, if they can do that, right? I get it. Some companies are small and tiny, but even those I think can do it. I don't know if I'll focus so much on the expertise, but more the intangibles, like the pathway to be able to play and let them, right, move with the company as they see fit, but
Right.
also play with other technologies that, if they are, let's use AI as the example, if they will be incorporating more AI into whatever parts of the business, they allow them to educate, to play, to train, and things like that. I think what's going to keep people there and keep expanding people is what the company can give for opportunity.
And I mean, I'm curious, just as a fellow business owner, one of the things that we run into often enough is, these IT leaders that they really don't speak the language of business. They're very technical, and
Right.
they understand different technologies, how they work, and all the nuances. But what are your thoughts on them bulking up on their skill set to actually be able to have a business conversation versus I'm a techie, I know all the tech? Because at the end of the day, business owners and their C levels and boards, they don't really, at the end of the day, care about the tech. They care about the business outcomes, right?
That's right. That's right. I do think the IT leaders need to have more of that business mindset. I'll tell you, I'm no longer surprised anymore. So, many years ago, I'd always be like, you don't have an IT personality, right? To some of these business leaders, right? You're so, outgoing, and you're so focused on the business and the ROI and the operations and the people, and right. And I used to be surprised when I would get an IT leader like that. What I've seen kind of shift, and I'd like to see more of, is that just be the norm, right? That sort of mindset is the norm. And so I'm not as surprised anymore. And I think founders of companies, especially tech companies, I do think that they want more of a business, like an operationally savvy technology leader, right? To be at the table with, right, the founders, with ownership to, move and grow the company as well. My well-established companies have been around, maybe not technology, the heart of the organization, but a very robust technology division. Seeing them make that shift too, and giving a lot of leeway to the tech stream of the company to, operate its own business unit very much so, and flow up to the business, the larger business. So you got to have a leader that is more business savvy, right? Who's focusing on OpEx, who's looking at EBITDA with them, right? Like all those things. So yeah, I'm less and less surprised at that other personality, which is good because I think they need to have more of a business acumen for sure.
Absolutely. No, well, we appreciate your expertise and all of your insights. Before I let you go, I know that we could probably continue talking for quite a while.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about
the Waste Management Open's coming up, and as you may know, we finished with some sort of golf related thing. So, what is your funniest memory or experience at the Waste Management Open?
Oh my gosh, the funniest or the most memorable? Oh, geez. I'm going to tell you, I would have to say last year, Nick.
Really?
Last year. Did you go last year with the weather?
I went on Sunday. I did not go on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Sunday was the beautiful day, right? So I went Sunday as well. I went on Thursday. It has to be the most memorable. I remember arriving there and being plummeted by hail. Like hail, just
That's right.
Right? Getting there, and they had to like shut it down, it was so cold, and then like downpouring rain. I mean, it was coming through the rafters of the 16th hole. It was messy. It was, so I would have to say that's the most memorable because of the weather and all the people that come. What is it, 200,000 a day? that on average come, right? Like
Yeah.
that was not Phoenix. We didn't show up for that, right? Of what
Yeah,
Phoenix could bring.
I was gonna say, I know that they've got some new rules that they just rolled out about like people, they're gonna kick people out real quick on this year.
Yep.
So
I think it's never going to be the same, right? There's going to be some changes for sure. So that's
my
one of those
funniest, I was
What's
gonna
yours?
say, let's see. So I was there for the Tiger Woods hole in one. So that's like the
Mm.
shining example of just the most memorable one. But an interesting story that I have is I was probably 25 or 26. I'd only had the business for a couple of years. And I got invited to go to, it was the IO data center tent, which was on 18th hole. This is a long time ago. Like 16 was not really a big thing yet. And I went, hung out with some people. And like the next day or the day after, my mom calls me and goes, "Hey, you're in the paper." And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, go get a copy of the paper." And, this is before smartphones, taking pictures real quick.
Yeah.
Well, long story short is they did an article about the IO data center and whatnot. And it was me shaking somebody's hand at the tent. That was like the lead photo. So.
And you got captured. That's good.
Yeah, I was like, well, I guess I'm kind of a big deal being in the paper.
I'd rather have that photo than some of the other photos I'm sure they've gotten of people.
I was going to say, if this was an X-rated or R-rated show, I might have some different answers because I've seen all sorts of crazy, ridiculous things over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, listen, for all those that are listening, thank you so much for watching and listening. Monique is here from Kempington Group to help you if you're looking for making a change.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you can reach out to Tech-Gofer as well. We're happy to help. Monique, so good to catch up with you.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes.
As always, great to catch
Really
up.
appreciate the conversation. Yep.
Appreciate you.
That's it. Cheers.
Cheers, my friend.
We'll see you next time on Get in the Hole with Tech-Gofer.